Hello there, my name is Damilola Ogunsi, also known as the Goldfish.
Hi, my name is Chiki Bright Emmanuel. I'm an actor and a filmmaker.
Hello peeps, my name is Yomi E. Adejimo.
Hi everyone, I'm Paul Utomi.
Hi everyone, my name is Stacey Benjamin and this is Voice of the People TV.
I need you to keep it locked to VOP TV. See, are you looking for good entertainment? You want to get good movies, good music, politics, talk shows, sports and entertainment. You really want a channel that gives you everything you need without you having to run around. VOP is where you are. That's Voice of the People.
If you're not listening to this, you're not one of us. And you deserve to be killed. Scrap chat. Don't be killed, but watch it. Or I'll find you. And I want you.
And you are locked on VOP TV. Don't go nowhere. This is where the juice is. This is where all you need for entertainment, politics, movies, and whatnot.
And keep watching VOP TV.
So keep it locked because I'm locked already, man, and it's money back guarantee. So you're gonna have a good time because I do.
And please keep watching VOP TV.
I won't want to actually, I beg you, subscribe, watch it. If not, whatever you see.
You better not touch that die because VOP is the plot.
In a world where power shapes with every headline.
In a nation full of questions.
In a world filled with noise, the truth needs a voice.
The policies that shapes our world and the economy.
Well, hello and welcome to the African News on Voice of the People Television. I am David Edwin. Before we begin the news, we would urge you to kindly visit our website. It is www.vop.ng for fresh and trending news stories. We begin the African news from the story where the Court of Justice of the Economic Community of West African States, Ecowas, has accused Nigeria of refusing to comply with its decision, lamenting that 80% of its judgment could not be enforced. Disclosing this when he led a delegation of judges from the court to the Chief Justice of Nigeria, Justice Kudirat Kekereekun in Abuja, President of the ECOWAS Court, Justice Ricardo Concalves, urged Nigeria to lead by example, insisting that if Nigeria enforces the court's judgment, other member states would follow suit. Blaming the lack of political will for the many verdicts that have remained unexecuted, Goncalves said the visit was to solicit the CGN's support to ensure the enforcement of government and judgment of the ECOWAS court in Nigeria. Responding, Kekereekun commended the regional court for what she described as its landmark and impressive judgment on enforcement of fundamental human rights in the sub-region. While acknowledging the importance of enforcing the court's judgment, she implored the delegation to come up with guidelines that will facilitate the implementation of verdicts by member states. Meanwhile, President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni of Uganda has warned that leaders who intimidate or manipulate citizens repeatedly repeat the authoritarian behavior of the country's former ruler, Idi Amin. Drawing parallels between past authoritarian rule and contemporary political conduct, he urged leaders to embrace service and moral persuasion rather than coercion. Museveni highlighted government's projects in northern Uganda, including rural electrification, new schools, and health centers, as well as clean water programs, as proof that service delivery should not depend on voting patterns. According to him, leaders should persuade through good deeds and reflecting on his opposition to Amin's 1971 takeover, he stated that those who impose themselves on others are repeating mistakes of the past. Still on governance and leadership, veterans of Zimbabwe's Liberation War have challenged in court the proposed changes to the constitution that would extend presidential terms from 5 to 7 years, thereby allowing President Emerson Mnangagwa to stay in office until 2030. The challenge by 6 veterans alleges that the changes, which also include a provision that the president be elected by parliament rather than through a direct popular vote, are unconstitutional. According to the court papers, the bill seeks in both design and effect to prolong the first respondent incumbency and current term of office. It's added that constitutional violation is further deepened by the manifest intention not to hold a referendum, notwithstanding the Constitution's entrenched safeguards against unilateral alteration of the democratic tenor framework. The 83-year-old Mnangagwa was meant to step down in 2028 after serving 2 5-year terms, but there has been a succession battle in the ruling ZANU-PF party over how to replace him. From Zimbabwe, we move straight to Kenya, where Kenyan airport workers called off the strike on Tuesday after 2 days of disruption that had caused flight delays and cancellations at one of Africa's busiest air transport hubs. Earlier in the day, passengers stranded at Nairobi's Jomo Kenyatta International Airport had been waiting for hours, unsure whether their flight would take off, with some having slept on the airport floor overnight. The Transport Ministry brokered the agreement for the Kenyan Aviation Workers Union to end its industrial action, saying that operations at the main Nairobi airport and other facilities would now return to normal. However, it was unclear how long it would take for normal operations to resume. The union had launched the strike in spite of a court order against it, citing grievances including its failure to conclude a collective bargaining agreement with the aviation authorities. Still in Kenya, Africa-based e-mobility companies are reportedly beginning to assemble electric vans and taxis locally using Chinese-made kits and innovative financing to increase the use of electric public transport across the continent. A Lagos-based Nigerian company, Saglev, has begun assembling 18-seater passenger electric vans using kit supplies by Chinese automaker Dongfeng Motor Core. Saglev says it plans to produce up to 2,500 vehicles a year, eventually assembling 17 electric models for Nigeria and other West African markets. Also in Kenya, Chinese-backed Redance Africa recently signed a $2.46 million deal with Mombasa-based Associated Vehicle Assemblers, that's the AVA. It will see the local assembly of electric taxis and minibuses from kit supplies by China's Jiangsu Joylong Automobile and Beijing's Henry Automobile Technology. Our managing director, Mas Leod, said the partnership delivers Kenya's first dedicated electric vehicles assembly line, demonstrating it has the capacity and capability to assemble electric vehicles locally at scale. In another development, the International Organization for Migration, that's the IOM, said a fire in a displacement camp in Sudan's North Darfur state has left no fewer than 60 families without shelter. The UN agency said the blaze, which cause had not yet been identified, erupted at Al-Umda camp in the Tawila area, destroying about 50 shelters and partially damaging others, adding that the displaced families were moved to open areas within the same locality. Thousands of internally displaced persons reside in Al-Omda in makeshift shelters constructed from wood, straw, and other highly flammable materials. Last week, a local relief body, the Tawila Emergency Rooms Coordinating Council, said a child was killed and about 1,500 families affected after a separate fire also razed 250 shelters at the same camp. And from Sudan, we'll straight to Ethiopia, where Turkish President Tayyip Erdogan has said that Israel's recognition of the breakaway Republic of Somaliland would not benefit Somaliland or the Horn of African region. His statement followed an earlier declaration in December that Israel's formal recognition of the northern region that declared itself independent in 1991 was illegal and unacceptable, and an attempt by the Jewish states to destabilize the Horn of Africa. Addressing newsmen in Addis Ababa during his visit to Ethiopia, Erdogan said Turkey values the sovereignty and territorial integrity of states in the area where Ethiopia is located. According to him, his country believes that regional countries need to find solutions to the problems of the region, and for the Horn of Africa not to become a competition field for foreign forces. A member of the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, Turkey has increased its influence in Africa in recent years, training Somalia's security forces and supplying development assistance in return for a foothold on the key global shipping route. Ankara has also developed close ties with other regional countries, including Ethiopia. Well, away from that report, the Council of the European Union has extended its arms embargo on Zimbabwe by 1 year till February the 20th, 2027, in an annual review of its sanction on the Southern African nation. However, it lifted all remaining provisions related to travel bans and asset freezes on individuals and entities following the 2025 delisting of Zimbabwe Defense Industries, which was the last remaining entity on the list. In a statement, the EU said it remains constructively engaged with Zimbabwe and looks forward to deepening the bilateral relations across a broad range of areas of mutual interest, including on trade and investment. It added that the measure's effectiveness would be monitored in light of any future development. The Council first imposed sanctions and an arms embargo on Zimbabwe in February 2002 due to serious and systematic violations of human rights, including political violence and what it called a reign of terror that resulted in deaths and displacements. Moving on, there are reports that says Facebook and TikTok are no longer accessible in Gabon, hours after the country's media regulator announced their suspension because of what the government called the risk of conflict-inducing excesses. Gabon's High Authority for Communication on Tuesday announced the suspension of social media platforms until further notice, accusing content posted online for stoking conflict and division in society. According to the authorities' spokesperson, Jean-Claude Mendomen, inappropriate, defamatory, hateful, and insulting content was undermining human dignity, public morality, the honor of citizens, social cohesion, the stability of the Republic's institution, and national security. Mendomen also cited the spread of false information, cyberbullying, and unauthorized disclosure of personal data as reasons for the decision. He explained that these actions are likely, in the case of Gabon, to generate social conflict, destabilize the institution of the republic, and seriously jeopardize national unity, democratic progress, and achievements. Meanwhile, Amnesty International has disclosed that a phone used by prominent Angolan journalist Teixeira Candido was infected with surveillance software from spyware vendor Intelexa for a brief period in May 2024. Speaking on the development, Candido said he felt exposed as if he was taking a shower with the bedroom door wide open. According to the Amnesty International report released on Tuesday, Candido was the head of the syndicate of Angolan journalists when his phone was targeted with a series of WhatsApp messages starting in April 2024. Though Amnesty International noted it was the first confirmed case of predator use in Angola, it did not attribute the targeting to a specific government customer. The report said he appeared to have clicked a link in one of the messages on May the 4th, which triggered the predator infection, giving whoever targeted him full access to the contents of his phone. You're still watching the African News right here on Voice of the People Television. We'll go straight to the analysis segment of the news. And joining us now to make sense of these stories and more in the studio with us is Barrister Darlington Agumo. Barrister Darlington is on this table a public and political affairs analyst and commentator. Barrister, a very good afternoon to you and thank you for joining the conversation.
Good afternoon, David, and how are you?
I'm fine, very well, thank you, Barrister. How are you doing as well?
I'm okay.
All right then, joining us also virtually all the way from Kenya is Mr. Nicholas Oyor. Mr. Nicholas is a human rights activist and Secretary General of Free Kenya Movement. Mr. Nicholas, thank you so very much for joining the conversation and a very good afternoon to you as well.
Thanks for having me. Thank you.
All right then, also joining us virtually all the way from Kenya as well is a cleric and a Nairobi politician. Now talking about Honorable Mercy Ngota, but I understand that Honorable Mercy has not joined the conversation and we definitely await her joining the conversation. All right, let me start off this conversation from the studio here. And I'm going to start off from the situation coming from Zimbabwe. Well, Barrister, the EU's embargo on Zimbabwe at, I think about 2002 thereabout, is something that has been an ongoing conversation. Some have said that the embargo, the arms embargo, truly it's about, if it's about human rights or a geopolitical tool to keep Zimbabwe dependent on non-Western allies. What's your position with this story, Barrister Darlington?
Yes, I think when this issue with the whites, you know, the white people in Zimbabwe started, I think it went back with Mugabe.
Right.
The issue is it's been a long time. I don't know why it has continued. And from what you said, I'm beginning to think that, yes, they want them to be dependent on the Western world perpetually, you know? Because if you are placing arms embargo, how about if it is needed to protect themselves from predators and all that, what happens? It's not every arms demand that is for human rights abuses. You can even tell them, like when we bought Tucano jet from US, they told us don't use it on civilian populace, except for terrorists. So they can be specific on what you are going to use the arms for. You can't just place embargo on them when they need it to protect themselves and do other things. It's wrong.
And to think that the embargo has been extended for another 1 year, Barrister. What do you make of these sanctions to punish Zimbabwean leaders or ordinary citizens paying the price in poverty and, of course, lost opportunities, as it were?
No, I think it's the government that they are trying to deal with here, not ordinary citizens. Because they want to put the government in bad lights. If they cannot protect the citizens and all that, it is a shame on them. And so that is what they are trying to do. My worry here is that why can't you be specific? Even if you want to supply arms, tell them that these are the do's and don'ts. These are the things you cannot do with the arms, and these are the things you can do with the arms. That is just the simple truth. Anyway, it was the European Union, Abi?
Yes.
Yeah, so
yes.
They have alternative.
And also to think that the government's narrative, as it's being posed in Zimbabwe clearly, is that the sanctions are illegal and an act to punish ordinary citizens and Zimbabweans rather than the elites.
I said they have alternative. It's just the EU. That means they can't do anything with the EU countries. Is that not true?
Right.
Yes, they have alternative, except they don't want to exploit it. That's it. They didn't say arms embargo around the world. No, it's not possible. After all, Turkey is there. South Africa is there. China is there. You can do business with them now.
All right, then. Let me take this conversation to Kenya, where we have Comrade Nicholas, like I like to always call him, joining the conversation. Well, Comrade, this is about a conversation that has been ongoing for a while because the council first imposed that sanction and arms embargo on Zimbabwe on February 2001. Yes, due to the serious systematic violations of human rights, including political violence at the time in 2002. Now, what do you make of the fact that this embargo has also still been extended for another 12 months?
I think it's unfortunate when you see these kinds of things where you find people from outside Africa always creating situations for Africa. For them to extend that embargo, they should have had evidence to show that this is what has happened and that is why we're extending. There should be a report that shows what they are claiming to be human rights violations, and a very detailed report to show this is because of these arms. But then, as my colleague has said in the studio, it doesn't make sense that you imagine that you are going to create a situation which is going to affect the leadership in Zimbabwe. It is the citizens who are going to suffer when there is no security, when they're exposed to certain things and all that stuff. And it is unfortunate that sometimes these things are introduced and the people who basically bear the brunt are the people who would have been protected, people who would have been maybe secured, and now they don't get that security. But as my colleague has said, there is also options. They should look around. But on human rights, you don't like to allow somebody to take away your rights. Right. And so it's a matter of it's not making sense for you to be stopped to do something if there is no justification for it.
Well, I'm still going to stay with you, Comrade. Interestingly, as it stands, Zimbabwe seems to be a bit reliant presently on the relationship between China and Russia. Some have said that this might deepen their further relationship with the EU. But from your position, are you seeing this as a new Cold War style alignment on the part of the EU? Because they know that Zimbabwe also have a very good relationship with Russia and China as we speak.
It must be exactly that, because this is what you get in the current kind of engagements internationally and globally. If you're working with someone else, they create problems for you. We've seen it in coming from America. We've seen it coming from EU. We've seen it all through. But then I think if you get your way out and you find that you can get weapons from that you need from Russia, Turkey, and China, you continue and let them have their way, because sometimes they are putting those embargo just to it's like an anger. It's like expressing an anger. But then countries have a right to decide who they are going to trade with. It is unfortunate that you are forced to a corner by other countries internationally.
All right, then. Well, let me stay with you, because we understand recently that the union, the aviation union in your country, presently have called off the 2 days strike. Well, of course, you know the strike started just on Sunday nights, thereabout. What's the situation at the Jomo Kenyatta airport right now? And then has normalcy been restored in the airport as we speak?
Yeah, normalcy has really restored, and I think everything is back to normal. But I always ask myself, why is it that some of these things must go to a strike? Why do government allow these things to reach a strike level so that they can engage? Is it that this is some of the discussion, call it negotiation processes? If this is their way of negotiation, I think they should change that stance of negotiation. You should not allow things to go as to a level where it now becomes as bad as this, so that now you can realize that you have to come back to the table. It is not fair to the travelers and the economy of the country and people who rely on that airport. It's a very busy airport, that one. It's the largest airport in Eastern Central Africa. So you can imagine what kind of damage that has caused.
Right.
Just those 2 days. Yeah.
Well, it's a good thing that the airport has returned back to business. And we're hoping that, of course, people whose flights were delayed starting to fly and, of course, get to their location. Let me bring the conversation to the studio here. Well, Barrister, I'm still going to stay in Zimbabwe. And as we speak, veterans of Zimbabwe's Liberation War have challenged the court and, of course, the proposed changes to the constitution that would extend the presidential terms from 5 to 7 years, thereby, of course, allowing Emerson Mnangagwa, the current president, to stay in office until 2030. Now, you would recall that his tenure is supposed to elapse 2028. What do you think would be the outcome of challenging this decision in court? Because, again, this same constitutional change is still in the parliament. They have not yet clearly said, right now, we're staying with this new review. What do you make of this?
Yeah, that is the putting pressure on the parliament not to assent to this bill. And that is what I expected other veterans to do in Africa, because they are stakeholders. This is a country they fought to liberate. So it will not be a good development if they should watch politicians mess up the same country. In fact, other veterans should take a cue from what these veterans are doing in Zimbabwe. Because when you keep quiet, these guys will do more than expected. The 2 years he added to his tenure, what will he do to Zimbabwe? Please tell me. What will that 2 years do for him? What does he want to remain there for 2 years for? Nothing. Just to sit down there and be eating money. These guys are never satisfied. I don't know why. All the veterans in Africa, they should take a cue from what is going on in Zimbabwe. Well, let them challenge the authority.
To answer a bit of your question, the ZANU-PF, that's the ruling party in Zimbabwe, seem to be having some internal issues. And, of course, a successor to the president, the call for extension of his stay.
It was created. David, don't mind those people. They created it to... they think they are very clever. They created this whatever just to elongate the tenure of the president. Okay, as the president, can't he use his veto power and quell whatever problem that is ZANU party? You mean the president cannot bring about peace in his own party? No, tell me. If he gives an order today in that party, they will not obey it, Abi. Leave that thing. The man deliberately created this crisis so that he can remain in office. What nonsense.
Oh, well, let me take this conversation to Kenya again. Well, comrade, as it stands, veterans clearly, 6 veterans alleges that the changes, which also includes a provision that the president be elected by parliament rather than through a direct popular vote, is unconstitutional. What do you make of this?
I think it is a really sinister move. Those 2 years, as my colleague is saying, could be a beginning of something. Like in Kenya, if the president is also trying, there is also some issues like that, to extend to 7 years, coincidentally. And after that extension happens, he will begin his term and begin to say that this is the first term he's serving the new term. so that now the extension is not 2 years, it becomes 14 years. So the sinister motive here, and the fact that they want to take it to parliament again, means that they can actually control it. It is very unfortunate what leaders in Africa are doing. I don't understand why people don't find it making sense that you do your term and you live. People have enjoyed by living. They've gone out there and they found life is a bit more easier to do, and you are a bit more respected, and you have things that you're going to do after office. I don't know why leaders think that being in office is the only thing that matters.
Comrade, what's the implication of tweaking the constitution like we're saying right now? Now, interestingly, it's not about the first time it's happening in Zimbabwe. I mean, in 1980 to 2017, Robert Mugabe repeatedly amended the constitution to, of course, extend his rule, often bypassing democratic safeguards. So what is the implication of this constitutional tweaking, like I would popularly want to call it?
Yeah, it is going to end up that way, just like the way Mugabe is. Once it comes to 2030, close to 2030 again, they extend. When it comes close again, you extend. And these are the things we keep saying. You end up having a situation where the leader is not even doing anything in office. They're just basically extending their term. And the politics that attracts, and you see now they are targeting it in the parliament. You know, parliament is something that is very dangerous. In Kenya, we have found a parliament that is very easy to be manipulated. You just throw money at them and anything you want probably passes. It is easy to manipulate parliament than to manipulate the people. Of course, there is also manipulation of elections that happen. But then I think Emerson Mwangangwa should really feel unfortunate. He should feel this is not the right thing to do, and he should just move on and find something else to do. It's not always being in office is the best thing that you can have. In fact, it's very stressful. People who have left office have said their stories, and they've always saw it that once you leave office, you find it is free and you have some measure of freedom, and it's something you cherish when you get out there. So you should really look for something else to do and stop this kind of things. Africa should change it doing these things. Yeah.
All right, then let me bring this conversation back to the studio. Barrister, same question as it stands. What's the implication of this decision as pushed by the parliament? Now, you did hear Comrade Nicholas say there that even in Kenya, you see parliamentarians being easy to be swayed because of money. As it stands, Barrister, investor confidence, how much of an impact would the constitutional change, should it happen in Zimbabwe, are we going to be seeing?
No, Africa generally. Why do you think nobody wants to invest in Africa? Why do you think Africa is backward? It's because of this type of behavior and this type of attitude. Because whenever you are doing they don't even know that the whole world is watching. That's why they say the world is a global village now. With your smartphone, you can just press a button and get every information you want about any country. And so when they read all this, they will just be laughing in their privacy and be asking, these people, are they human beings? You know? Because they'll be comparing it to what is going on in their own country and say, no, these people, they are not. And so when you call them to invest, they'll be shaking their head. That's why nothing is coming into Africa. That's just the truth. So I wouldn't blame anybody who doesn't want to come and invest here. I won't blame anybody because here is not investor friendly. It's not. Seriously, it's not. I'm not joking. It is not. Unfortunately, you need this investment to grow. You need it. Most American countries are in China today because of cheap labor. Because of cheap labor, they are there.
Is there a possibility, Barrister, that there would be some risk sanctions on Zimbabwe should this pull through as against the will of the people?
No, not
plus, again, is there a possibility as well that there might also be some reduced international aid?
Already there is none coming in, and you are making it worse. Nobody will sanction them as long as the parliament approved of it. They will tell you their sovereign rights as a state. As long as why do you think they go through parliament? To make it legal, to make it authorized and all that. So if they like, they would have just said, I want to stay here for 10 years. But they had to go through the parliament to give it the backing it needed, to give it the legal backing that nobody will challenge. That's just the truth.
Quite unfortunate, really. But Barrister, let me come to you in a forte that you are huge and big at. Interestingly, as we speak, ECOWAS court is clearly decrying the region's disregard for 80% judgment. What do you make of this, Barrister?
This is not the first time. In fact, they said Nigeria is the worst culprit in this aspect. The Nigerian government, who is even funding this from ECOWAS, does not abide by their judgments. You can imagine when such a body, because after all your laws within your state, is the next port of call is the highest court in your regional block, and which is the ECOWAS court. How many judgments have not passed against Nigeria? Nobody listened. Nobody even said anything. They just ignored it as if nothing happened. And so how can you grow when you don't abide by court ruling? How can you grow? How can anybody have a confidence in you? You are calling a businessman to come and invest in your country. So if tomorrow now they have issues with you, will you think abide by what the court says? Is that confidence? They won't come. Because always the government want to have their way. They want to have their way. No government wants to be embarrassed by the court.
So, Barrister, what's the implication of this level of not obeying court rulings?
The implication is that your investors will not come.
On a block like ECOWAS?
Yes, yes now. Especially those countries that have refused to abide by the judgment of that court. Everybody is aware. They know the culprits, the countries that do not abide by their ruling.
Yes.
And so investors will be looking at such countries. And then, two, the legal system of that country will now be suspect. Yes, these are issues. So when they now degrade you, you start asking yourself how. It is because of all these types of things. You don't uphold the rule of law. You don't abide by court judgment. You don't even have regard for the court. That is, you think that you have power. No, you are reducing your status in the international community.
All right, then.
That is the meaning.
Well, let me take this conversation to Nairobi as well. Well, comrade, interestingly, this statement coming from the leadership of the ECOWAS region clearly is an indication of the fact that leaders in this state have refused to obey court order. I mean, acknowledging the importance of court order, what do you make of this?
I think we have seen this trend across the world even, where these regional bodies seem toothless because the sovereignty of the people seem to be more potent than the regional bodies. You know, regional bodies are about an agreement, and sometimes agreements can be disagreements. So regional bodies are very weak. It's unfortunate that it's not only ECOWAS that is suffering this. We have seen with the US with the ICC issues. We have also seen the AU. Sometimes it looks like AU is very toothless. I think the kind of things that happen with these regional bodies is a mess. But then the question of court orders. You know, in situation, just as my colleague is saying in the station, respect for court orders has been a problem for leaders, for leaderships. Like in Kenya here, we have had a very major, call it documentation of a lot of disrespect of court orders. One of the things that is facing one of the presidential candidates, aspirants right now, when he was the Minister for Internal Security, was that he used to seem to be like he didn't respect court orders. And now he's being told that now you're on the other side, you want to run for office, and you have to tell us about those things. He's now being held accountable for those court orders that they did not respect. So really, the question of court orders in Africa is a major disruption. It is causing problems because people cannot actually trust you. because it means that the entire process of the court can happen, and you can actually just come and decide, no, you're not going to do anything. But this again tells us about the question of power dynamics in leadership, because there is a judiciary, there is a executive, and there is a parliament. My thinking, and the way it's supposed to be, parliament is supposed to be the main house and the biggest house. And then probably you'll talk about judiciary because it protects the entire group. Then now comes to the executive. But the thing has turned the other way around. It is the executive that seems to have the powers to do anything they want and run away with it. So really it's something that because they have the military. So it's really important that we get to a situation where African arrangement of leadership and governance come to a point where things like judiciary can enforce those orders. It is important that they have possibly their own, call it police, judiciary police that can actually take action when you refuse to follow orders.
All right, then.
And parliament be able to support those things. If you are a leadership that has not followed a court order, you should actually find yourself in a situation that you are removed from office.
All right,
those are
then.
things that we must enforce in Africa, yeah.
Well, quite unfortunate, we're out of time, but I would want you to chime in maybe 30 seconds. The situation coming from Uganda, where President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni has warned that leaders who intimidate or manipulate citizens repeatedly are repeating the authoritarian behavior of the country's former ruler, Idi Amin.
You know, I'm smiling. I found myself in the wrong side of Museveni. I wonder what it means, because I need to understand if he's seeing himself. This is, for me, a case where you are doing something and you don't want others to do. Because when we talk about elections in Uganda, we are continuing to say that those elections were not free and fair. And then he says these things. You wonder what he means. But okay. Maybe there's something when people say that age also has a problem.
All right, then. Let me bring this conversation to the studio here and we'll wrap up the conversation. Well, Barrister, Yoweri Museveni saying and warning against authoritarianism. Some have said this is him trying to justify his own decade-long rule in power.
David, yeah, before I get to that, that of...
Museveni.
Yoweri Museveni. Ecowas court has a responsibility to sanction governments that don't obey their judgments.
Yes.
There is something they can do, except they don't want to use it. Because the same government will want their citizens to obey them. Is that not true?
Right.
Good. And it is this type of thing that creates anarchy in some states. When you see people becoming rebellious and all that, it is because of this type of thing. When you trample on their rights, even with court judgment, what do you expect them to do? They will turn into rebels and you'll be complaining. Right. So the ECOWAS court has a responsibility. The sanctions are there, use it for them. Then on Zimbabwe, on Uganda, you know, dementia has a very tricky way of playing on man's mind. I think the man is suffering from dementia because he has forgotten what he has been doing in Uganda. And now he's preaching morals, double standard. So that you say, this man is talking sense. So he's a very good man. Oh. But in reality, the same thing that Idi Amin did when he was in office. In the public, he will appear to be a good man. When they called him Mayamungu, say, come and... oh my, I don't want to remember what that man did. Well, in the public, he will appear to be a good man, but behind closed door, he's the devil. So let him go ahead.
Because of time, really, this is where we have to draw anchor on the conversation. But I would say President Yoweri Museveni should first do the charity from his home, where his son is the head of the military and, of course, has done and said several things that is supposed
what
to be
What did they do to that musician? Bobby
Wine.
What did he do to him?
Anyways.
Leave that thing, Jerry.
I wanted to be thank you to all of our panelists on the analysis segment this beautiful afternoon. We had with us Barrister Darlington Agumo in Nigeria and also virtually comrade Nicholas Oyo. Thank you so very much for being a part of this conversation always.
My pleasure.
Thank you for having me.
All right, then. We'll take a very short break right now. When we return, we'll be looking at African business stories and sports. Please stay with us. So I'll be back. It is still the African news, and we are going straight to the business side of the news. The Ghana's finance ministry says the government has paid 10 billion cedis, that's about $910 million in interest under its domestic debt exchange program, that's the DDEP. It stated that the payment marks the sixth coupon settlement since a restructuring began as the country works to emerge from its deepest economic crisis in a generation. In a statement, the ministry explained that the payment was intended to reassure both domestic and international investors, strengthen market confidence, and support the country's credit outlook, while also promoting stability across the financial sector. It added that the latest settlement in the second full cash coupon payment with no payment in kind component, which reflects improved fiscal capacity and a stronger sovereignty position. And to wrap up the African news, we go straight talking sports. Vipers SC were held to a 1-0 draw by NEC at St. Mary's Stadium in Kitende on Tuesday. The result cut their lead at the top of the Ugandan Premier League to just 2 points. Milton Karisa puts Vipers ahead in the 7th minute following a precise pass from Abdul Watambala. However, NEC responded in the 75th minute when Warren Bully headed home a set-piece delivery from Emmanuel Kulunga. In other fixtures, Entebbe UPPC edged Mbarara City 1-0 thanks to Ambrose Kikozi's strike just before halftime. The win moves Entebbe into third place on 34 points, while Mbarara remains below them. Meanwhile, Police and Mahimba United drew 1-1 at Royals Park, while Police stay fourth, with Mahimba climbing to 5th position following Eric Nyongwitono's late equalizer. And with that sports story, we've come to the end of African news right here on Voice of the People Television. Do well to subscribe to our YouTube channel. On YouTube, we're at Voice of the People TV, and on all other social media platforms, we are at VOP TV Live. Thank you so very much for being a part of this broadcast. I am David Edwin. Do have a good afternoon.
Africa is on the move, a continent of rising voices, untold stories, and powerful transformations. From the streets of Lagos to the heart of Nairobi, from the mines of Congo to the tech labs of Cape Town, the African story is being written every day. Bold, dynamic, unstoppable. This is African News on Voice of the People Television. We don't just bring you the news. We analyze and bring you Africa's heartbeat, the politics that shapes our nations, the economies that drives our future, the cultures that defines who we are, the voice that must be heard. Africa News, Africa's voice, Africa's future. Where Africa speaks, the world listens. Behind every broken desk lies a broken promise. Education shapes the nations. But who is asking the right questions? Introducing Edu Dialogue, the show that goes beyond the surface, exposes the cracks, the corruption, and the silence in Nigeria's education system. Edu Dialogue, Saturdays, 3 p.m., only on VOP TV. We break the biggest stories, from missing funds to policy failures. We ask the tough questions and demand real answers. Edu Dialogue, this Saturday, 3 p.m. on Voice of the People Television.
To know the happenings in the maritime sector, join us on the program Maritime Frontiers on VOP TV as we discuss key areas in the maritime sector from aquaculture, maritime transportation, maritime labor regulation, oil and gas exploration, ferry and passenger insurance, marine pollution and prevention, port operations and lots more. Maritime Frontiers, exploring Nigeria's blue economy. Join us as we drive into the world of politics through insightful interviews with prominent political figures, both serving and former governors, ministers, senators, legislators, party chieftains, activists, and analysts. Get first-hand information into the decision-making processes that affect our daily lives. Highly engaging 1-hour program that brings political discourse into focus.
I am Chukwu